Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Cinedome's podcast, Cinephiliacs. I'm your co-host, Daniel Scott DeJess, and with me is
AK.
the founder and owner of Kiara Pictures.
Hey.
How you doing, AK?
I'm good, man. Running on fumes.
Well, keep on running.
Oh yeah.
If you wanna, if you wanna learn how to run, watch that movie Sprinter that
Yeah.
you heavily loved me talk about in the last episode. Hey, we have another guest today.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Do you wanna learn who it is?
Yes, I would love to.
Oh, well, here you go. Everyone, please put your hands together and clasp them harmoniously for the wonderful Bobby Fedor. Did I say it correctly?
You said it correctly, Fedor.
Yes. Ah,
If we were in Hungary, you would say Fedor, Robert,
Fedor.
but we're not in Hungary.
that's
We're
an
in-
awesome last name. My last name is DeJess, so it's like these. I always want to, like, when I see a unique name, I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly. So how you doing today, Bobby?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
It's a
of
pleasure.
course. Thanks for being on the podcast with us. So obviously we talked a little bit before we started, and you one of the things you talked about was that you're proud of was getting into the Writers Guild when you were out in California. And I was just curious, like, how did that kind of start? How did you get into this industry? How did that journey start to enter the Writers Guild?
I started writing. I messed up and graduated from college, so I had no job and nothing to do, and I started writing. And then I decided that I was going to be a screenwriter and go get a graduate degree. So, with $200 and a Scirocco, I drove across the country and was lucky enough to get a job bartending right away in Los Angeles. And then I got a job as a tour guide at Universal Studios, which allowed you, after 3 months, to at least bid on a real job down on the lower lot,
Oh, wow.
and which is pretty much all of us ever need is a foot in the door. And then I was able to, I guess I took a typing test, and I was able to get 65 words a minute with less than two mistakes, and I was a script typist. And then when I got into the Office Workers Union, then I was able to transfer, and I was the assistant to producers on Amazing Stories, Miami Vice, Quantum Leap, Knight Rider, Airwolf.
Hey, really, classics.
Wow.
Yeah, just
Class-
listing off hot names. For
Classics
sure.
are horrific.
No, I actually, like, I think in the last year I watched some of the original Knight Rider episodes, like I think they'll go like the first 5 of the season, and it was definitely interesting watching just TV series like, and the way it's changed, in terms of how they do stunts and filming, because that obviously that show was heavily heavily action with
Yeah.
with a car chase almost every episode.
Yeah.
But did
So-
you have any one of those projects you liked particularly?
Well, the way that it works is if you're trying to be a writer, you would be the assistant to the showrunner,
Right.
and then you would beg them for a back 9 episode. They're not going to, in the old days, I don't know what it is anymore, but there would be like 13 episodes on the front half and then 9 on the back.
Yeah.
And by that time they were tired. So then if you might have a shot at getting one of those, or you could write a spec script. Okay. So I was able to do that on Miami Vice, and then things change all the time. And I mean the industry is so different. There was a Writers Guild strike, and then
Yeah.
guys that would have never dreamed of writing a single episode on a different show unless they didn't have a producer credit, that all went out the window. So if you weren't already a story editor, you probably were not going to be working very much. So there was this giant shrink. And so that's when I got into, and I'd sold 11 scripts on different television shows. And then that's when I got into independent film, which is, worse than going nowhere fast, you go nowhere slowly. Okay. It takes forever. It takes forever. So it took me 9 years to do my first little movie. That's in addition to working and being married and raising a family and stuff. So here I am trying to go back into that world again.
Yeah.
Welcome
so-
back.
Yeah. Welcome back. That's from the Graham Norton show. Anyway, a little shout out to Graham Norton. How getting back into it? What have you noticed that? How has writing changed from when you started? Whether it's the process or just maybe the style or anything of note that you feel has changed from when you were in it to then kind of jumping back into it now.
Well, I have Final Draft 12. I have yet to like do too much in it. I think there's certain software programs that'll prompt you and help you keep on remain germane and not get off track.
Right.
So that's part of it. And then I don't know how much the writing writing seems pretty good. I mean, the things that show up on the big three, Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu, things are pretty good. They're not usually too off, you know? So I'm not sure what the answer would be on that, other than that, even if you're not, if you've studied writing like I have, and I was lucky enough to study with some guys that uh, were happening guys on their own, and then as a part of their self development, they became a teacher as well in the UCLA Extension program. So my directing guy was Don Richardson, and then if you did well, then you got invited to his private class. Well, I mean, I studied with him for like 10 years. Same thing with this guy, Alfred Brenner. He was a screenwriter. I mean, he was so old that he's passed now for 10 years, but he was so old that, it was like, the U.S. Steel Hour, Act One by Alfred Brenner. That's
Oh
how,
wow.
that's how in the early live TV days, that's how revered, you were like a playwright or
Right.
whatever. And um, you know, these were guys that had 50, 100, 150 credits, so when they told you something, you kind of believed them, right? And then Don Richardson was my directing mentor. He was even more my favorite. He started like the actors studio with like Elia Kazan and Sandy Meisner, and but his most impressive credit was he was engaged to Grace Kelly when she was 19. That was so. Anyhow, he did a lot of great stuff, like all kinds of TV shows. Like he did the pilot for Bonanza and Get Smart and One Day at a Time. And you guys are
Hmm.
young. I don't know if you know these. I'm sure you know Get Smart from TV Land or something.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm
Yeah,
definitely familiar with
yeah.
the Get Smart for sure.
So these guys basically came. These guys basically were once removed from kind of old Jewish guys were once removed from the vaudeville acts on the Catskill Mountains. So kind of like that world of Dirty Dancing up there, where they would go out, and if it didn't work, they would know right away from the audience. So they kind of honed their craft. It is a craft,
Yeah, for sure.
writing, directing is a craft, and then at its best, it elevates to art, right? And then for directors, I've always liked, directing is the one craft that if you do it correctly, no one notices that you're directing, right?
Mm.
Oh my God, this guy just pulled in, or look
Right.
at this transition.
They
Anything that doesn't pull you out of story.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you talked about it obviously as a craft, writing and obviously directing too. But that being said, what do you think are qualities that a writer has to have to, whether it's be successful or maybe impactful, as a writer? Do you think there are specific qualities
Yeah, you
first
have to
off?
remain germane. Like if like we'll get into it, I'm sure, before this is over. But there's a story, Love Police, that I wrote years ago that AK and I are committed to doing here locally, and it's tight. So there's nothing mentioned. It's like everything. There's a payoff. There's not just something that's in there and then that's it. It's like I've kind of believed in that kind of Hollywood format that scripts, that American films, Hollywood films kind of rose to the top in the world because, they had a point. And, so there was a false goal. Let's say the false goal was to catch the killer, and maybe the real goal was to be a better husband. So as you watch a film, your main character goes through all this stuff to find the killer, but at the end, once he, brings the killer to justice, I don't feel that good. This isn't as satisfying. Oh, because the real goal, a false goal and a real goal. I believe in that. I believe in the three act structure. I think the days of just being able to film stuff just for the, oh, look at this, we're just filming
Yeah.
stream of consciousness, European stuff. I don't think so. I mean, you can do that, and it might, you might be lucky enough that it's amazing, but probably not. So that's kind of why I think Hollywood became Hollywood. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so remain germane. I even go a little further where it's like, you know, uh, you establish your character in his world or her world. 10 pages in, there's an inciting incident that
Mm.
changes it. at the end of the first act, it looks like their false goal, whether it's to catch the killer and be a better husband, is easily attainable. The first scene of Act Two takes you out of that. Okay, now everything's taken a dive. I do believe that Act Two is the story. That's usually, you can get into a story, you can get out of a story in Act Three, but Act Two is really kind of what you're talking about. That's why you've seen movies where the middle's like, huh? Right? It's hard. Okay. I also believe not in a 90-page second act. I'm more of a 45 or a 60-page because it's hard. It's easy to go wrong. Can only go right one way. And then at the end of second act, it looks like their false goal is, the killer's not only going to get away, he's going to kill you. And then your wife and your family, the real goal, it's over. It's not going to happen. Then again, the first scene of Act Three, usually there's kind of a lull there where the person realizes and they're on the wrong track. They've learned from their mistakes, and then there's the kind of battle to the climax. That's kind of what I believe. It's easy to say, it's hard to do, right? Yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, do you think we talked earlier that you love being a father, and to the kids you have, and
I'm gonna adopt AK.
This is news to me.
breaking news, everyone. We have breaking news every episode.
This is
And in
news
this
to me.
episode,
The
AK
dynamic is shifting.
Yeah.
AK is being adopted at
The false goal and the real goal.
That's right. The
Oh,
false.
wait, what's going on with making this movie? Guys?
Exactly. There you go.
yeah, the contract that's
Yeah.
being signed.
Yeah.
You don't know in the fine print. It's you're
Yeah.
his now. You're Bobby's child
Yeah.
now.
Oh God.
Um.
No.
So no, but with that being said, do you think if writers, do you think it makes a writer stronger if they use or rely on personal stories or things they've gone through, personal experiences, and they pull that into their writing?
Yes, of course. I absolutely would. I
It's
mean,
another
yeah.
stupid question, Dan.
Well, no, because
I'm
because
just
there
kidding.
is the other aspect of that, right? That what if some people might view a writer that doesn't do that and still pull off writing something that they've never experienced, and still writing something very impactful.
Hmm.
Would you clarify that as a stronger writer versus someone that does use their own experiences and still is able to, you know what I mean? Is it any less value?
No, I would say anything that makes you more self-aware is good. Writers tend to be pretty self-aware. I've always been, I've thought about doing a little acting. I always feel like I'm too self-aware. Like I can't pull. Actors can lose themselves in the moment in that reality. What's that old saying? Like the screenwriter is like the conductor, or the composer rather, and that the director is like the conductor, and that the lead would be like the virtuoso, whatever instrument that would be.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to slow down. I would say as far as writing, uh, writing workshops are important. In my time in Hollywood, which was a long time, I mean, almost more than 30 years, really it was kind of acknowledged that there were only really two people that were like awesome and geniuses from the get-go. You want to guess who those might be?
Like they're well known today.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
But from the get-go, from their first script, they were masters.
Spielberg.
guys.
Spielberg.
Yeah, I was gonna
Nope.
do that.
No, it wasn't
okay.
specific.
Wrong.
You failed me, Spielberg.
Writers.
Writers.
Oh, writers.
Yeah. I gotta
had no
think
idea.
writers. What's the? Are they directors as well? Is it writer directors, or they're
Yes.
just known for
Now
writing?
they're writer directors, but they started as writers.
Are they both alive?
They are.
Oh, okay, dang it. My guess was gonna be someone else, but he's dead.
Should I tell you?
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go
we
ahead.
suck.
We're yeah.
We're-
Number one was Oliver Stone. His first
Okay.
script that he wrote was amazing, and then he went on to write a lot of scripts and then become a great director.
Oh,
And the
wow.
other was Quentin Tarantino.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that was interesting because I was just talking to someone about it, and they were saying like with Quentin Tarantino that maybe he'd written other scripts before, but he had done a film like I don't know 10 years before Reservoir Dogs, and it wasn't.
He made the film.
It was before. Yeah, he had made a feature film before Reservoir Dogs, like indie, like as anyone starting out. I could be wrong. This is from a different source. I did not look this up. But he was saying that Quentin had done a film and it was looked at, like it wasn't looked at with high praise. And then when he did Reservoir, that obviously like had another look at his scripts, and then all of the scripts he had also written previously
Which one of
were
them I think was
then
True Romance.
yes, and that was what was the
Yeah.
yes, True Romance was then made into a film after that because
Yeah.
they looked at re-looked at those scripts. Anyway, it's just interesting of
Yeah.
like
My point is, it's hard. Like most of us, when they talk about mastery, like you have to have like 10,000 reps or something like
yeah.
that to be a master at anything. So for mastery, that would be
But
my
even
point.
then, like it seems like yeah, even if you master it, if you don't get seen, it's even gonna be hard. Like yeah, you hope that if you master it and you master your craft, whether it's in writing or directing, that you are gonna be seen. But sometimes, if you're not in the right circles, you could
Oh no,
be
serendipity is the biggest part of
yeah.
everything. You got to be luck is just and then but the harder you work, the luckier you get. And then work gets work. All those things. Yeah,
Well, so obviously you were in the industry. You said 30 years, and then you took a break from it,
I did.
and now you're diving back into it.
Correct.
What was kind of the reasoning that you felt like you needed to take time away, and then as a follow up to that, what was the opposite of that? Well, what was the drive to get back into it
Met
after that
fucking
time?
AK, bro.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
I convert them.
That's right. No, you get
Converting
married,
people.
you have kids. It's really hard to make a
Yeah.
a steady earnings curve. You know what's sexy to me? A steady earnings curve. Okay. I've had a very roller coaster ups and downs. And,
Yeah.
so, I was married, children, my wife who said, "Oh, I love you. It's okay. I'm a school teacher. You're a struggling screenwriter. You have your rent control apartment in Santa Monica. We'll be okay." It's the stuff they say,
Yeah.
you know. And then I kind of caught that whole cannabis wave in California. So I was in that business for 14 years. And then now I've kind of sold that. And then, so I came back to Florida where I'm single. My family's here. I've always considered Florida, Tampa Bay area my home. I grew up here.
Okay.
Um, very happy. I have a large circle of friends. And then I'm like, okay, so maybe I'm retired early. So I guess that would be the difference is like, and I really backed myself into a corner when I was in Hollywood. Like I forced myself to be broke so that I could just try as hard as I could. It's not a good look. People that rat on a sinking ship, that desperation stuff, it's not a good look. It's, people sense it and stuff. And again, serendipity was a big part of it or whatever, the market changed and now I kind of don't have to have it. So, I'm not counting on this financially. I'm counting on this, creatively, spiritually, emotionally, fun, so usually when things aren't so desperate, it usually works out, you know, that makes sense.
It's the what you brought up. I mean, it's a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Filmmaking, it's an art medium, and if you look at just artists in general, it's not financially stable industry. I think and so we talk about that. We've talked about this several times as a filmmaker. How do you stay inspired? How do you pay the bills? Um, and so I think, what you have to do, as especially when you're, a husband, you have children, um, you, what you have to do and what you want to do, I think are different things, especially in this industry. So I don't fault anyone that, I think a lot of people, they burn out, or I don't think anybody can deny how enjoyable the um, filmmaking process is. It's just getting that consistency, the opportunity enough, the financial payoffs or rewards enough, to be able to have a lot of normal things that a lot of other industries just have that stability in.
Yeah.
So, um, and how awesome it is that you were able for those 30 years, to work with, I mean, comparatively, um, people here in the Florida market, being able to live out in LA and work with one of the most prestigious, production companies, Universal, and then to work with some real heavy hitters, and then still be able to figure out a separate industry and do well in. And now you're kind of, I mean, I think that shows a lot of, like you said, awareness on, like, hey, I'm going to step out and go crush
Yeah, I mean, it's
another
just,
industry,
yeah.
And then be able to come back to it. I think that's, I don't see
Well,
it as,
I'm jealous that you guys, are here. Like, believe me, part of that journey, uh, irregardless of the finances, is that the LA is kind of dog eat dog, and people aren't by and large like super tight, and everyone's it's and it's not an inexpensive place to live. And then my experience coming back here from the get go is everyone is very inclusive and happy, and there's a passion to it. Um, and then there's also something that's I think interesting is that you couldn't stop me from writing until I got paid to write, and then I didn't want to write anymore unless I got paid. And I finally just gotten back over that, you know because I mean, I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. Finally, I sold something, and then sold a couple of other things, and then I just wouldn't write unless I was getting paid,
yeah.
which is not a smart thing. I don't think. I think if you're going to be a writer, if that's your main thing, you should really reinvent the wheel every 6 months. Like you should be cranking out 2 good scripts a year.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
So
that's interesting because
that's a good. So
we were
let's
kind of
talk.
talking about that
l-
with
Like what all? That's a yeah. What goes? What is truly what propels the probability of a paycheck? Is it putting the art first, or is it, you know, because that's what I experienced this last year with a 115 grains. It was the first film I did that was financed, and I was like, I've made it. I'm not from this point out. Everything has to be this budget or bigger, and because it was, I mean, thank God I didn't do that for a whole long. But I passed on some opportunities that now looking back, I was like, man, I didn't have anything going on. Like, why didn't I do that? So I think I 100% agree with you that as an artist, what you said earlier, work begets work. So supply and demand, however you can go out and just continually shoot movies, big budget, low budget, I think is really important to, developing your craft, and then staying fresh, and staying, it keeps you invigorated and inspired.
It is a grind. I mean, you guys are young and you've been doing it for a while, and he's young. You're not young. You looked at him.
no, I'm saying he's young.
That-
He likes to say he's not, and I'm like, you're young.
So many comments.
yeah.
He's young, everyone.
But
Everyone, please tell AK he's young. He needs to hear those words. He looks like a young foal coming out of a horse, out of a mare. You're just sprouting your wings, young lad.
Yeah. No, I'm so early. I feel like I've been doing, starting as an actor when I was 11. I mean, over 2
I
decades.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I started as an actor. So I'm going to be 34 this year. So, being involved in theatrics, because I started in theater, but in being involved in drama for 2 decades, it doesn't feel, it's majority of my life. It's what I've known is,
Yeah.
putting on a show.
Yeah, clearly.
Showmanship, which you clearly have nothing
What?
to show.
Wow.
It is
We talk
interesting.
shit to
It
each
is
other.
interesting that
Yeah.
you're saying that is the bulk of your experience and your world. And I have written, including Love Police, at least 5 or 6 scripts where it's about a show in a show. Okay, so it's so this is a movie, but it's also about a television show, and then it's intercut in there because as a very young man at 23, I got a job at Universal Studios, and I worked there for forever. So
Yeah.
really, all I knew about was TV shows and working on TV shows. And there's some on older film with Sally Fields called Soap. I don't know if you ever saw that. That was about and then even Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman and Bill Murray. But I like that. So there's different ways to tell stories, and I do gravitate towards doing a show in a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, because that's my frame of experience.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems like you're pulling from your personal experience that is
But-
impacting your writing.
But
it
also,
works.
I'm not a big, I mean, even though this is an action story, I'm not a big, there's a meteor hurling, at the earth or whatever, and so those scenes in Act 3 and these kind of the battle scenes, I kind of prefer those to be performance oriented. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can dive in a little bit more on Love Police. So obviously, this is like your first project that you're trying to kind of upkick. Now that you're back here in the Tampa Bay area and in this industry and kind of getting back involved,
It's
and obviously,
it's Bobby New Wave.
and obviously you're getting involved
Bobé.
with this
Yeah.
guy, this
Fe-
guy here,
Fedor New Wave.
Yeah, Fedor.
Cinema.
Yeah,
Bobé
nice.
Bobé Fedor New Wave.
Yeah.
Fedor.
It's
Yeah.
all one word.
Yeah.
Bobé
Yeah.
Fedor New Wave.
Cinema.
All right. Well, the
It's
pitch
delivery
is
right there.
Love Police is about an actor who'll do anything to get a part. And the only part he can get is on the Love Police, which is a low budget tabloid television show that exposes cheating spouses. The irony is his face is pixelated, so to protect his anonymity. So he's on TV, but nobody even knows who he is. Okay.
Okay, that's
He
funny
unknowingly
bit.
exposes the cheating wife of Tampa's biggest mob boss. So now this gangster is ordering everyone in town to kill this guy, and he should be running for his life, but he just got a call back on Tampa Bay Watch Nights
With a K.
With a K. So he's not going anywhere, and that's it. So it's a sweet little romp, and it's fun, and it goes, and I'm pleased. I'm pleased, and it's I've yet to get anything but positive feedback. It's something I wrote a while ago, something that was originally set in Miami. And then when I came here, I just kind of dusted it off and changed it to Tampa and went, took out some things that, are a little expensive. Car going off a bridge doesn't really add anything.
You took that out?
No, it's in.
Okay.
No, I did it with a sound effect.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And AK's like,
I'm
will
gonna
you
bring
please?
it back.
He goes, will you please? Will you please just let us just, because there's the selling script and there's a shooting script,
Yeah, yeah. Of course.
and for
Shooting
me,
script has the car going off the bridge.
I'm gonna
The
have.
selling
It's
script
gonna
does
blow the
not.
fuck up in the water. Boom. No, yeah.
yeah.
That's funny.
And then we also talked about it's like, I'm just tired of the car chases and the meteors and all, this crazy, the whole world depends on this one thing. And
Yeah, all these stories are world ending somehow.
well, my favorite James Bond opening of the last 10 was the foot chase. I think it was in Casino Royale.
Yeah, the opening of Casino. Yeah,
I don't know what that Brazilian stuff is called or whatever.
Well, it was more just like parkour. Like, yeah, I mean, parkour on the simplest
But there was,
definition. I guess.
that's super more exciting to me than cars and stuff. It just is, And then the other thing that's interesting is that from a story point, point of view, until if you have a chase scene, until the person gets caught or gets away, the story stops. So it could be 15 minutes of the most, Ronin was pretty cool. Obviously, Bullet is the all time. You're just excited. It was just exciting. But until until something happens, the story stops.
Yeah. So this kind of conversation, it's interesting because obviously we talked about this on a previous episode of a director kind of having a conversation with a writer, but with you and having these conversations with AK, how has it been in terms of just a jumping off point or creative feedback or having another voice, I guess, kind of see your work and feed into it?
It's invaluable. Unless you're just happen to be one of the two people like we talked about, he's brought a lot to it, and also I'm more of a writer director. He's more of a director. So and then also he's proven himself to do something at a ultra low budget. I get the terminology wrong because I'm old. It was a low budget film.
No, there's so many tiers now.
Yeah.
that, like
Well,
you could say low budget, and
well-
you're not even talking about a low budget to like
Right.
So
someone else's low budget.
it 115 grains is considered a ultra low budget. So anything under 300,000 to 50 is ultra low. Anything under 50 is no, actually it's 20. I think it's 20. They changed it. Anything under
He
20.
doesn't even know.
Anything under 20 because they recently changed the unions. Anything under 20 is micro.
Yeah.
And then anything from 300 to 700 is modified low budget.
Yeah.
And then above 700,000 all the way up, I want to say to like 5 million is like average.
They just kept adding more letters.
It's average, and then above 5 million is like they're blockbusters.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just funny to me that they were like, there's an MLB, which is micro, and
Yeah.
then there's the modified
MLB.
Yeah.
Yeah, men,
like-
yeah,
And there's the MIB, Men in Black.
yeah.
Anyway.
So in our case, I just, and because I've got a lot more experience and I've been around the block, I'm not interested in just doing something and then spending 4 years trying to raise $5 million. That's just not exciting to me.
Yeah.
I'd rather, and I really don't even think that this story warrants that, and then, AK's got some good work. He's also done some comedy spots that I thought were great,
Take a water if you,
Yeah.
or sip.
Believe it or not, I actually have a knack for comedy.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah. I had a few notes for your improv thing, but I reserved them because I know
Oh, really?
you guys are just you're finding your path,
Oh, yeah.
your way, and I didn't
Wow,
want
You
to.
can't even be honest feedback to a friend. I feel like that's worse.
I honestly think you're a great guy, and I just want to maintain our friendship.
But you actually suck at improv.
No, there was like
You're not funny, Dan.
No, there was the so recently Dan.
You
Dan.
don't have to talk about this.
no,
this
it
is
was we'll check. Oh, we don't want to talk about it.
No, but I
So-
meant like I don't want to take time from
Yeah.
Bobby.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
but Dan is also a lover of comedy,
Yes,
and
I make love to comedy quite often.
and he partakes in improv comedy, and they recently had a show, and he had a little bit where they basically froze him, and then he had to like readjust what he was doing, and the payoff, you came back and it was imaginative. So good job, Dan. Good job.
Right.
He had there's potential in him.
There's imaginative comedy potential inside of me, everyone. Shout out to my improv team, Daytime Delusions. If you like improv, check us out. We have shows coming up. So, yeah. Anyway, back to Bobby, the real star of the show today. Not you,
and every
AK.
day. And
Yeah,
every
Yeah,
day.
and every day.
Every day.
Yeah. The camera's definitely not on me, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, so maybe AK, we can kind of hear your perspective. Obviously, you're coming in as the director in this aspect and kind of giving these notes.
We'll wait till the agreement is signed, guys.
Yeah.
Early talks.
So
You're-
there's some secret sauce to the filmmakers. I actually talked about it the other day. I was talking about Love Police, and they're like, "Oh, how's that?" I was like, "Look, until I see money in my bank account, I don't believe that it's going through." Because I've sat down.
Oh, yeah.
Just there's so many things that have to fire off on the business side before people within production. I can't do what I do, especially the things that I'm really good at doing, until I can start hiring people. I can start spending, to make a good movie, it costs money. So but anyways, I was telling them, I was like, well, we'll see that, and then also we'll see if when we get to that point, if Bobby's like, hey, I still want you to be the director. So
Well,
because you never know. I
if
mean,
you
like
had-
there's so many artists out there that are they're it's very very they're competing for that trust. They're competing for the opportunity, that mantle. So anyways, right now, guys, I'm greasing Bobby. I'm trying to, in any way, shape, or form, trying to soften the.
Well, there's 2 points.
that was hilarious. You're so funny.
Yeah.
That what I was doing, that was a metaphor for really like dominating this movie.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
you
yeah.
go. There
Yeah.
you go.
Is that what that was?
That's what I I
Your
think
your,
that's
your object work.
that's
Needs
how
work.
that's how I think of filmmaking. It really is. It's like riding a bull. You know.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That was riding a bull.
That was a
Oh.
road. That what you saw was a dance there. That it's maybe unfamiliar to you.
Well,
but
sitting down looks very different.
Yeah.
Maybe standing up, I'd notice it was a dance, but I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
it looked a little different from my angle. Anyway, if you had let me finish,
Yeah. Go
my
ahead. Sorry.
earlier segue was as a director and having these talks with Bobby and looking at a script. What are conversations that you have and you think directors should have with writers and in terms of what they
Okay.
bring?
I think the first step to having a fruitful relationship with a writer is not trying to change the voice of the story. Really trying to understand, the characters. Trying to understand the vision of the writer, and then your job as a director is to try and bring that vision to life. I think that's fundamental step one, because you hear it's an ongoing complaint where producers, not just the director, but producers, directors, they get a hold of a script and the writer doesn't even recognize their work.
I have one of those.
Yeah, by the time it's gone through the assembly line.
Yeah.
And so I think if you want to have ongoing relationships with very talented and professional writers, it's respecting their lane, respecting what they're bringing to the work. And then number two, having very transparent, honest conversations. If you're not going to be able to, I don't know, like have the big shootout or whatever because of a budgetary standpoint, and to say, hey, give them the opportunity to, in a way, play a producing role. Like, hey, like how can we make this gratifying to you? Giving them the opportunity to rewrite something instead of telling them this is what you need to rewrite. So I think. At least my personal stance on working with a writer, working with anyone, is really respecting their expertise and trying to find the best marrying of the best collaboration. And then in doing so, I think what that ends up doing is you have a lot of parties that end up trusting the director, and I think that's instrumental in having a longevity to your career is and being well liked. Because like I was saying
Are you well liked? I haven't noticed.
I think so. I think I've gotten better. I think I've gotten better at a big part of it is figuring out how you can service, like I said, the different departments and the different individuals on it, and making sure that everyone walks away feeling like they got to do their best work in that journey of making that story.
So a couple of points, and this is good to go back to. So I've always been jealous of an artist or a sculptor. Yeah. So wait a minute. So you mean I've got $300 worth of paint and a canvas and I can do my gig? Okay. Or I've got this block of stone and I don't need an army of people to make this happen. I guess I'm embarrassed to say I'm well watched. I'm a product of television. I'm not particularly well read. Okay. So I don't know if I could write a book the pages would just turn. I know I can write a script. Okay. Because I've been in that world. So to AK's point, it does take an army of people. And then when he's like, well, you don't know if you're going to get the gig or whatever, for me, it's AK's gig. The only wild card would be, and nobody's this lucky, somebody says, no, I love this script and we don't want to do it for $300,000. We want to do it for $3 million. And this is our list of guys that are going to do it for $3 million. That would be a tough call. Don't really see that happening,
Yeah.
Just not
I don't either.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So that's that. But and then also, to be honest with you, I kind of want to, I want to have fun. I want this to be a cool thing, and I want it to be it's a Valentine to the Tampa Bay area. Is really what this
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, you're wanting to make this movie here,
Yes,
and you mentioned right there that it's like almost like a love letter, a Valentine
it is.
to Tampa.
It's very sweet.
Was there any, you mentioned like you grew up here, but was there any other reasoning or specific something that moved you that you were like, you know what, I'd like to do this here, and I'd like to have this film take place in Tampa Bay and do it locally versus anywhere else.
It comes down to the people. I mean, I grew up with some kids, and we all went away to Florida State together when we're in so I mean, I've got a group of between the guys and girls, 30 people that have been in my life since I was 12, all the way through graduating, and we're still close. So that was and then my mom and my brothers and stuff. So that's part of it. It's good people around here. Really nice.
Well, I think a big part of filmmaking it's access and execution, right? Having, because if say Bobby, as an example, went to some other state, that didn't have any filmmakers there, and didn't have the ability to source funding, or I mean, so a big part, you're only as good as your options, right? So we could maybe because I remember you told me Love Police got quoted years ago for like 1.2 million.
165.
165 million to make,
It's not a lot.
and then you meet,
That's
you meet a different filmmaker that's like, hey, our market's different. I think we can make this at, 300,000,
Right.
so I think.
And they wanted to spend on names, which is like a whole nother thing
Right.
too.
Yeah. So but the point is, I think as filmmakers and whatever part of, you're a screenwriter that's trying to, scripts are meant to be made. They're meant to be. They're not meant to just. I don't know many screenwriters. They're like, honest to God, I'm okay with this.
Sitting on a shelf.
Yeah, sitting on a shelf. I mean, I think
I've got about 15 of those.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they're meant. They're screenplays. They're meant to be turned into, visual mediums. That's how they're
brought to fruition.
Yeah, correct. So, so I think it's really important as a screenwriter that you align yourself. You craft stories and make sure that you align yourself with the people that can get those stories made.
Well, we have come down to our last topic. And Bobby, it's a question for you. What is a movie that you think the writing was really great, but you feel has been forgotten about or left behind? This could be recent as well, but it doesn't really get as much acknowledgement as you think it should.
Space Sluts in the Slammer.
Space Sluts in the Slammer.
I'm just joking.
I was about to ride with it. I was about to be like, all right. I was like, everybody check out Space Sluts in the Slammer. I mean, Bobby's saying the writing's going to be friggin' like...
It's like Reform School Girls, but set in outer space.
I don't... Look at the writing. It doesn't matter the premise. If the writing's friggin' baller, then I'm ready for this movie. Let's go.
I don't know, because I would think that off the top of my head, my favorite movie is Grapes of Wrath, which is I love old movies.
Yeah.
I've studied that. It's super powerful to me. A movie that I love, but other people love too is Officer and a Gentleman. I just love that movie.
Okay.
Sunset Boulevard. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's
Do
because
you have one that is like really personal to you that you're like, you love this movie, but maybe not really anyone else does? Or that you don't really hear as much love for it?
No, because it would be the one I'm embarrassed to say is like Dumb and Dumber, but everybody loves that movie.
It's a great,
It's
it's
a funny movie.
Yeah,
The first one's really good.
Yeah, it really is. No, I don't. I think that a sleeper. I'm not sure. Why don't we go to AK and let me think about it for a second.
Well, so for the longest time when people would ask me, "What's your favorite film?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I've seen so many. It's so hard to pick." But now the film that I always say, and it's because I relate to it on a very personal level, it's What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
I thought you were gonna say Bardo.
No, it's what dreams may come. It's widely. It's my. I have a very personal relationship to suicide,
Yeah.
and in the film, it's an adaptation of Dante's Inferno, which I think is probably one of the
Yeah.
best love stories ever made.
Yeah, you talked about that before,
And it
too.
has, so it has a spiritual element to it. It has like a fantasy element to it, and so it's about Robin Williams is the he's a doctor in this story, and very early on in the film, his two children die in a car accident, and then it's not too much after that, he ends up dying in a car accident, like trying to save someone, and it propels his wife, who's his soulmate, to pass from suicide. And what you find out, in what's really beautiful, it's a love story, and it's aside from all the stuff going on, it's about a person's love for their partner, and that they would rather spend eternity in hell than spend, because it's Dante's
With them.
than without them in heaven.
Right, yeah.
So because it's based off Dante's Inferno is based off of Catholicism.
Yeah.
And so there's the 7 layers of hell, and suicide puts you at one of the deepest levels of hell. And so what they forgot to include, and I would love, and this is a personal goal of mine, I would love to create a live action Lord of the Rings, like big budget Dante's Inferno, with special effects with Dante, and I think it would be, I think you can create a spiritual or religious film that is still tasteful and respectful to other religions, and isn't like, my goal of the film wouldn't be to try and, because I didn't grow up Catholic, and my goal wouldn't be to try and convert anyone to Christianity, but I
Right.
think that it is an amazing story, that the story of Dante's Inferno, Dante, battling his way through the 7 layers of hell, to reclaim his love, Beatrice, and from the devil himself, who like takes her as his bride, so he can birth the Antichrist. I think it's
So yeah, definitely,
anyways.
guys, check that out. I mean, that was very riveting
Heavy.
and
Yeah.
heavy. That I think that can be a great watch and impactful, and any of
It's
that.
it's
any,
a
check it out.
classic.
Yeah.
It's
And
What Dreams May Come is
with Robin Williams, you said. Right?
yeah, it's a classic
I gotta
film.
definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Did you think about one now?
A film that is underappreciated, or the one that's just important.
One that
to
you think, that you feel.
That's not talked about, but you
Yeah.
really love. That's near and dear to you.
God, I just feel like they're the ones. No, because the ones that
It's okay. You can say that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
because the ones that I seem that I like are, I mean, Cinema Paradiso is very important to me. Everybody loves that movie. Shalom Bombay, a long time ago. I don't know if you guys saw that film. It was an Indian movie 20, 30 years ago. It was really important to me, but it was amazing. I used to go see the Kung Fu movies in Santa Monica on Saturday morning, Drunken Master and all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of stuff.
With
And
Jackie Chan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
used
that
to
was
go
great.
I would every Saturday and I love that stuff because they shot all these ridiculous scenes in masters, which we would never be able to do. Like we can barely do a punch. But no, I guess Cross Creek is also important to me. I don't know if you ever remember that
I
with
haven't
Mary.
heard of that one.
No.
It's Mary Steenburgen. It was about the story behind the lady in Orlando or Ocala area, Mary Rollins, that wrote The Yearling.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Well, unfortunately, guys, that is the end of this episode
This is the end.
for Cinedome's Cinephiliac podcast. This was a great time with you, Bobby.
Thank you.
As always, guys, I am your co-host, Daniel Scott DeJess, and alongside with me is
AK, everybody.
founder and owner of Chiaro Pictures, Bobby. Where can people find you?
In terms of
How do people go about contacting you?
Yeah, if they
I
want to maybe hit you up for a writing job.
my email, I guess, would be good. Robert Fedor, RobertF as in Frank, Fedor at att.net.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for having
everyone,
me.
give a round of applause
Yeah, Bobby,
for
thank you.
Bobby Fedor. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks
good
for being
seeing-
here, man.
Thanks.
Awesome.